My name is Isabella Kensington. I'm 28 years old. And if someone had told me a year ago that moving my boyfriend out of his own favorite room would save my sanity, I would have laughed. I had been dating Ethan Walker, 26, for 2 years. 8 months earlier, he moved into my 2-bedroom apartment. The lease was still entirely under my name, but we split the rent equally, and I honestly thought we were building a future together. At first, everything felt normal. Ethan washed dishes. He vacuumed. He even cooked dinner sometimes. Then, little by little, something changed. By the 3rd month, I noticed I was doing almost everything. I worked full-time as a software engineer. Ethan worked part-time at a clothing store, roughly 25 hours each week. Somehow, despite having far more free time than I did, he always seemed exhausted. Whenever I asked for help, there was always an excuse. Babu. Could you do the dishes tonight? I'd ask after a long day. Without looking away from his phone, he'd sigh dramatically. I'm tired from work. The next day, it would be something else. He had a headache. He needed to relax. He deserved a break. Meanwhile, I was working 50-hour weeks and still coming home to dirty dishes, laundry piles, and grocery lists that somehow only I remembered. I kept telling myself relationships required patience. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe things would improve. They didn't. 2 weeks ago, I came home late on Friday night and immediately felt my chest tighten. Pizza boxes covered the coffee table. Empty drink cans sat everywhere. The bathroom counter looked like a cosmetic explosion. Apparently, Ethan had invited his friends over. I had deep cleaned the apartment only 2 days earlier. Saturday morning, I found him sleeping at noon. I stood in the doorway staring at the disaster around me. Ethan, this is ridiculous. He groaned and buried his face in the pillow. Why are you so dramatic? Because I'm tired of cleaning up after everyone. He sat up, annoyed. I'm not a maid. Isabella. If it bothers you so much, clean it yourself. His words stunned me. I'm not asking you to be a maid, I said quietly. I'm asking you to clean up after yourself. He rolled his eyes. I pay rent. That's my contribution. Cleaning has always been your thing. Then he lay back down and went back to sleep. Something inside me became strangely calm. For months I'd been trying to save us. For months I'd been begging for basic respect. And suddenly I realized something. He was right. He wasn't my maid. But I wasn't his either. I smiled softly. You know what, Ethan, you're absolutely right. He smirked, convinced he had won. He had no idea that our relationship had just changed forever. That afternoon, I called one of my oldest friends, Claire Bennett. Claire and I had known each other since college. She was 30, responsible, and had recently been searching for a new apartment. When she answered, I surprised myself by laughing. Please tell me, you're still looking for a room. She paused. Why do I feel like there's a story behind that question? I told her everything. When I finished, she sighed. Isabella, you've been carrying this relationship by yourself for months. I know. You deserve better. There was silence. Then she asked, when do you need me? Next weekend? I'm in. Because the lease belonged solely to me. I knew I could legally rent the 2nd bedroom. Ironically, Ethan had turned that room into his gaming and dressing room. He barely used it for anything productive. Over the next week, I became the perfect girlfriend. I cooked. I cleaned. I never mentioned chores again. Ethan thought he'd broken me. I even overheard him laughing with friends on video chat. I finally trained her, he joked. The words hurt more than I expected, but they also confirmed I was doing the right thing. Meanwhile, Claire and I prepared quietly. I photographed everything inside the spare room. My desk, my shelves, my furniture. Everything was documented. Then Thursday evening, Ethan announced he was visiting his older sister for the weekend. I'll be back Sunday night, he said casually. Try not to destroy the apartment while I'm gone. I smiled. Have fun. The second his car disappeared, Operation Day began. Claire arrived with a truck. Together, we moved my furniture out of the spare room. Then we carefully packed Ethan's belongings into labeled boxes. His clothes, his gaming equipment, his decorations, everything. Nothing damaged. Nothing missing. By Saturday afternoon, the room looked completely different. Claire's bed stood against the wall. Her bookshelf was assembled. Her office desk sat beside the window. For the first time in months, I actually felt excited to come home. Sunday evening arrived. I was making dinner when Ethan walked inside. At first he smiled. Then he froze. His eyes moved toward the living room. Boxes. Lots of boxes. What the hell is this? I turned calmly. Welcome home. How was your sister's place? His face changed instantly. What happened to my room? I wiped my hands on a towel. Your room. He stared at me. Why is it locked? Oh, I said casually. That's Claire's room now. His mouth literally fell open. Who is Claire? My new roommate. The color drained from his face. What? For a few seconds, Ethan simply stood there staring at me. Then came the anger. You moved someone into our apartment without asking me. Our apartment, I repeated calmly. The lease is in my name. Ethan. And you made it very clear that we each contribute however we want. So I found someone who actually contributes. He looked at the locked door again. Where am I supposed to sleep? I pointed toward the living room. The couch pulls out. His expression became almost comical. You're serious? Completely. He laughed in disbelief. This is insane. No, I said quietly. Cleaning up after 2 adults for 8 months was insane. Just then, the bedroom door opened. Claire stepped out carrying a box. She was tall, composed, and somehow looked completely unbothered by the chaos unfolding around her. She smiled politely. Oh, you must be Ethan. Nice to finally meet you. Ethan stared at her. You moved into my room. Claire blinked. Actually, Isabella rented me the room. Then, she disappeared back inside and closed the door. I nearly laughed. The next 3 days were miserable. Ethan cried. He accused me of betrayal. He claimed I had violated his trust. You should have talked to me first. I folded laundry while listening. I did talk to you. Repeatedly. That's different. No. You just never listened. Then came the next surprise. Claire called me while I was at work. Your boyfriend tried opening my door. What? He thought I wasn't home. Thankfully, we'd installed a small camera outside the room. The footage showed Ethan trying to use a credit card to force the lock. When I confronted him that night, he exploded. I just wanted my stuff. Everything you need is already in your boxes. He stormed away. When that failed, he turned to social media. Suddenly, mutual friends began messaging me. Apparently, Ethan had posted a dramatic story about his controlling girlfriend who had brought a stranger into the apartment. Conveniently, he forgot to mention the 8 months of cleaning I had done. I blocked several people. Claire only laughed. People always tell half the story when they're guilty. What amazed me most was that even after everything, Ethan still refused to clean. Nothing changed. Coffee cups sat where he left them. Snack wrappers remained on tables. He seemed convinced that eventually I'd get tired and start cleaning for him again. Except now, there were 2 adults in the apartment who refused to enable him. Claire became my greatest ally. She washed her dishes. She cleaned the bathroom. She even cooked occasionally. One night, she handed me a bowl of pasta and smiled. You know, relationships shouldn't feel like unpaid labor. Her words stayed with me. For months, I'd been exhausted. And somehow, a roommate treated me with more consideration than my boyfriend. The difference was painful. Claire also developed a hilarious habit. Whenever Ethan left a mess somewhere, she'd clean everything except his mess. The kitchen counters would sparkle, except for one coffee stain. The bathroom would shine, except for his shaving cream splatters. It became almost artistic. One Thursday night, Ethan announced dramatically, I'm not paying rent anymore. I looked up from my laptop. Okay. He blinked. Okay. Then, you'll need to move out. His voice rose. You're choosing a roommate over your boyfriend. I met his eyes. I'm choosing respect. He stomped into the living room and spent half the night slamming cabinets. Around midnight, Claire emerged from her room wearing pajamas. She yawned. Could you keep it down? Some of us work tomorrow. Ethan exploded. Mind your own business. Claire shrugged. You're right. Sleep is my business. Then she calmly returned to her room. I almost choked, trying not to laugh. The following morning, I discovered several containers missing from the refrigerator. I found them hidden among Ethan's belongings. He had taken meals I'd prepared for myself. Ethan, are you seriously stealing food now? He crossed his arms. So you cook for Claire but not for me. Claire cooks for herself. That answer seemed to offend him more than anything. Then came the moment that finally destroyed whatever hope remained. Saturday afternoon. 3 of Ethan's friends appeared without warning. They marched into the apartment like they owned the place. One woman looked around dramatically. So this is where Isabella keeps you prisoner. Another shook her head. I can't believe she forced you onto the couch. They were loud. Messieurs. Disrespectful. And when Claire walked into the kitchen to grab water, one of them muttered, There's the replacement girlfriend. Claire nearly spit out her drink. I immediately stepped forward. Enough. Everyone went silent. Your guests need to leave. Ethan stood up. I pay rent. I can have friends over. I crossed my arms. And your guests can leave when they start harassing people. His friends scoffed. One accidentally knocked over Claire's coffee mug. Coffee spilled across the floor. Claire stared down at the broken mug. Then she looked at me. Neither of us said anything, but I saw the disappointment in her eyes. That hurt more than anger. Ethan, I said quietly. Clean this up, and ask your friends to leave. He smirked. Or what? The room became silent. I had spent months avoiding this moment, but suddenly, I wasn't afraid anymore. Monday morning, I began the eviction process. His friends exchanged nervous glances. On Nebby one. They gathered their things. As they left, they abandoned pizza boxes and soda cans everywhere. The bathroom looked destroyed. Ethan turned toward me. You embarrassed me. I stared at him. No. Ethan. You embarrassed yourself. Later that night, Claire sat beside me in the kitchen. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, she asked softly, Do you still love him? I looked around the apartment, at the mess, at the exhaustion inside me, at the woman I had become. Tears filled my eyes. I don't know anymore. Claire squeezed my hand, and for the first time in months, I admitted something to myself. I wasn't fighting for love anymore. I was fighting because I was afraid to let go. Monday morning, I contacted an attorney. By noon, Ethan received official eviction papers. When he read them, all the confidence disappeared from his face. You're serious? I looked at him with tears in my eyes. Completely serious. For the first time since we'd met. Ethan looked afraid. The moment Ethan realized I wasn't bluffing, everything changed. Suddenly, the man who had ignored every conversation for 8 months wanted to talk. He followed me around the apartment. Babu, please. We can fix this. You had 8 months to fix it. I'll change. You said that before. No. This time I mean it. The sad part was that I wanted to believe him. I really did. Because despite everything, I remembered the man I fell in love with. The man who used to surprise me with coffee and stay up late watching movies with me. But somewhere along the way, comfort had turned into entitlement, and love had turned into responsibility. The very next day, Ethan suddenly decided to clean. He washed 2 dishes and proudly announced it like he'd climbed Mount Everest. He vacuumed one corner of the living room. Then he spent 20 minutes complaining about how exhausting cleaning was. Claire witnessed the entire thing. Later she whispered to me, Isabella, I have seen toddlers with stronger work ethics. I burst out laughing for the first time in weeks. Then, Wednesday arrived. I came home from work and froze. A woman sat on my couch. Ethan's mother. I'd met her only twice before. She stood up immediately. Isabella, we need to discuss this. I put my purse down slowly. With respect, there's nothing to discuss. She looked horrified. He's your boyfriend. He is. For now. She launched into a speech about how Ethan wasn't raised to be a servant, how some men simply weren't good with domestic tasks, how I should appreciate having a handsome, loving boyfriend. Before I could answer, Claire walked by, carrying laundry. She smiled sweetly. Funny. I wasn't raised to be a servant either. But somehow, I still know how to wash dishes. Ethan's mother looked offended. Who are you? Apparently the adult in the apartment. I nearly laughed. After she left, Ethan was mortified. He cried again. But something felt different now. Not genuine regret. Fear. Fear of losing his comfortable life. A day later, I came home and discovered his belongings spread across the apartment again. His clothes filled the closet. His products covered the bathroom counter. His gaming equipment had taken over the living room. He stood proudly with a printed document in his hand. I researched tenant rights. Isile, congratulations. This is my home too. Technically. He was right. For the remainder of the notice period, he had rights. But so did Claire. And Claire turned out to be absolutely unforgettable. She woke up every morning at 6. She loved energetic workout music. She meal prepped for hours. She practiced guitar after work. Everything she did was perfectly legal. Everything she did was something Ethan himself had done to me for months. Within 5 days, dark circles appeared under his eyes. One morning he stumbled into the kitchen looking exhausted. Can you tell Claire to stop? I sipped my coffee. I can't control another tenant. Please. Maybe ask nicely. He groaned. For the first time, he understood what living with inconsiderate people felt like. Then came his final desperate attempts. First, he complained to the landlord. The landlord visited. He reviewed my documentation. He met Claire. Then, he quietly pulled me aside. Is this the same tenant neighbors complained about for leaving trash in the hallway? I nodded. The landlord sighed. I'm supporting the eviction. Ethan looked completely defeated. Then came attempt number 2. Romance. He wore my favorite cologne. He brought flowers. He even put on the expensive shirt I'd bought him for our anniversary. That evening, he stood in front of me holding roses. I'll do anything. My heart hurt, not because I wanted him back, but because now he was trying. Now, after months of tears, after months of feeling invisible, anything I asked, softly. Anything. Move out peacefully. His shoulders collapsed. At that exact moment, Claire shouted from her room. Oh, that one hurt. Even Ethan almost laughed. Day 20 arrived, and with it came someone unexpected. His father? He stepped out of a rental truck and looked 10 years older than I remembered. While Ethan loaded boxes, his father approached me quietly. I'm sorry. I blinked. What? My wife and I spoiled him. There was sadness in his eyes. We always cleaned up after him. We thought we were helping. He looked toward his son. Maybe this is the lesson he needs. For 6 hours they packed. Ethan cried repeatedly. His friends, the same people who had encouraged him online, were nowhere to be found. As he carried the final box toward the truck, he turned around. You ruined everything. I looked at him sadly. No. Ethan. We ruined everything. I just stopped fixing it alone. Tears filled his eyes. Then he left. And just like that, 2 years together ended. 2 weeks later, the apartment felt peaceful again. No piles of dishes. No arguments. No resentment. Claire and I had developed a routine. We split chores. Cooked together occasionally. And somehow, life became lighter. One evening while we ate dinner, she raised her glass. To healthy roommate relationships? I laughed and clinked my glass against hers. Mutual friends later told me Ethan had moved back in with his parents. Apparently, adult life had shocked him. He posted online about starting over and escaping toxic situations. Ironically, he also complained about how difficult laundry was. The funniest update came from a friend who sent me a screenshot from a dating app. Ethan's bio read, Looking for a woman who treats her man like a king and understands traditional values? I stared at the screen for several seconds before bursting into laughter. Claire nearly fell off her chair laughing with me. "Good luck with that," she said. I smiled and looked around our spotless apartment. For the first time, in a very long time, I felt at peace. Losing Ethan had once seemed terrifying, but sometimes losing the wrong person is exactly how you find yourself again.